Welcome to Week 1 edition of the Commish's Corner. I'm your host, Commissioner James Collier of the Trash Talk Required League. We got a lot of news and notes, Week 1 recap, and plus a couple special guests tonight that will be joining us. Have the coach of the UK Royal, BJ Brammell, as well as the coach of the Kentucky Pats fan, Jason Coldiron, will be joining us later on the show. Let's get right into it. Let's recap Week 1 that was in the Trash Talk Required League. In game number 1, it was County 3 Putts versus BigPimpin.com Pats. And without a doubt, this was supposed to have been a much closer game than it ended up. But unfortunately, the BigPimpin.com Pats team forgot to show up. That was my team. We had very weak receiving core, did not play to their potential, as well as our running backs really let us down for what we were expecting. Did not put up the points that we needed on the board. Unfortunately, for County 3 Putts, had a great balanced attack. Big running game out of Darren McFadden. Matt Stafford put up big numbers, as well as that defense that we talked about earlier in the week with the San Francisco 49ers putting up huge numbers. 154-71, your Toyota Fantasy blowout of the week, actually dropping right there. In game number 2, it was no sloppy seconds versus UK Royal. This turned out to be our biggest game of the week, as the final score have only been decided by 0.4 points, 124.45 to 124.05. The actual game being decided by a No-Sean Moreno fumble late in the ball game, as he actually had the game won, coughing the ball up, turning the game around, and giving the win to UK. For UK, it was McCoy and Reggie Wayne that really pulled up and made some big points for him. Drew Brees went out for no sloppy seconds, put up some really big numbers right out of the gate, but the rest of the team kind of fell away, and Moreno really dropping off there at the end and making him have the loss. In the next game, it was the Googlers versus Kyle's Comets. Kyle's Comets was going into the fourth quarter of this game really confident, thought they had a big win looking forward at them, had 3 players left to go with a commanding 53-point lead over the Googlers. However, there was one thing that I did remind him. There's one guy in this league, if anybody else knows it, it's Tom Brady that can change that real quick, and boy did he ever. 517 yards, 4 touchdown passes with an interception, 85 points alone out of Tom Brady. And when it's all said and done, it's a 163-113 win for the Googlers over Kyle's Comets. Brandon Marshall put up big numbers. Michael Turner, as well as Rob Gronkowski for the Googlers, 163 points off of that game there. Next game was Straight Cash Homies versus the Coal Buckets. Aaron Rodgers putting up big numbers for Straight Cash. Hakeem Nicks and Deshaun Jackson as well throwing up the big numbers for Straight Cash. 130-68 victory over the Coal Buckets, who had a very weak wide receiver week. The running backs was really down big time, and then obviously having Kansas City's defense putting up only 1 point for the entire weekend really hurt him there. The next game, it was the Rebels and the Kentucky Pats fan, and what turned out to be a upset of the week, more or less you say, as the Rebels were picked to win this game and actually was turned around. For the Rebels, their big falter was Dwayne Bowe. Only put up 1.2 points for the entire weekend. Really a big letdown there for the Rebels. For the Pats fan, having a great pickup. Arian Foster ruled out late on Sunday morning that he was not going to be able to play against the Indianapolis Colts. The Pats fan jumping on the waiver wire real quick and getting backup running back Ben Tate. What did that end up for him? Only 116 yards and a touchdown, and a 125-102 victory over the Rebels. In the game of the brothers, it was the New England Celtics versus the Raceland Red Sox, in what looked to be a for sure win for the Raceland Red Sox, as going in late in the game on Monday night, had a commanding lead, narrowed it down to 6 points, and then with one pass from Tom Brady to Wes Welker, 99 yards down the field, it turns into a 104-72 victory for the Celtics over the Red Sox. The Red Sox losing kicker Nate Kading on the first kick that he made this season. He's going to be on injured reserve. He's out for the rest of the season. In our final game, it was Death on Call versus the Real McCoys. Obviously, the Real McCoys, Peyton Manning on the bench, unable to play, not sure when he's going to be back. But for Death on Call, it was wide receivers Kenny Britt and running back Ray Rice just pounding the ball, getting a lot of big points, a balanced attack all the way across his team. For the Real McCoys, His wide receivers was kind of off a little bit, and then obviously Rashard Mendenhall not putting up any points hardly whatsoever that he needed to, although his Chicago defense did put his points up to keep this game a lot closer than it really was. 122-95 victory for Death on Call. Okay, this brings us to our interview section. We got two great guests here on the phones tonight, and we're going to jump right in. First off, we're going to have the head coach of the UK Royals, B.J. Brammell, join us. Coach Brammell, thanks for joining us on the show tonight. How are you doing this evening?
Doing good this evening. Thanks for having me.
Coach, let's get right to it. You had a great week one, a big victory that you pull off. Tell us about what's going on in that game.
I'll tell you what, you come out the first part of the games on Thursday, you see Drew Brees throw up 54 points. You don't know what to think. You think, man, this week's really going to be hard for us to come back from. The players were all down. We couldn't get them up. We watched a little game film. We had some walkthroughs on the field before all the games on Sunday. And, you know, Reggie Wayne, Sean McCoy, Colt McCoy all came out had big games for us, pulled out the win. Luckily, no Sean Marino fumbled at the end of that game, and it really gave us the victory. Other than that, I mean, it was a really close game, but if we would have put maybe Tony Romo in there instead of Colt McCoy, we would have ran away with it a little better than what we did. But thanks to no Sean Marino for giving us that one.
You know, you've mentioned there that you went with Colt McCoy over Tony Romo. What did you see in the youngster that said, you know, I'm going to start this guy week one, knowing how critical it is to get out that quick 1-0 start in the season?
Well, I knew he had some success last year, but the main thing I was looking at was Tony Romo coming off an injury year. You don't know what he's going into. You know how the Cowboys looked last year, and it just really, we didn't know what to go with there, so we went with the sure bet at Colt McCoy, knowing that he put up numbers, not knowing how Tony Romo was going to respond after last year.
Coach, tell me what you got coming up this week. Got another big game coming up. Tell me about it.
Huge game. We got the New England Celtics. They're hosting us this week. Come off a huge win in the Battle of the Brothers. I mean, it's going to be a huge game. We just got to see which team coming off the big wins has the biggest letdown. The one with the biggest letdown is going to go home with the loss. The ones that stay on their game and come back, they're really going to come out with the win and be 2-0 and really sitting pretty in this league this year.
Okay, I'm joined by Coach B.J. Brammell of the UK Royals. Coach, free agency this week was huge, obviously. A lot of teams wanting to make those first week adjustments, trying to add a little bit more to their team. You grabbed one real quick, a big agent that was out there, Cadillac Williams, running back. Tell us how you picked him up and what your plans for him in your roster.
I'll tell you what, we were really looking. We've been looking for that big running back in the next big running back in our team and whatnot. And once Steven Jackson goes down, he's always injury plagued, always has things going on. And we were looking and saw that Cadillac Williams was still out there. And I couldn't believe he was still out there, honestly, because you know how injury prone that Steven Jackson is. And if he's injured all year long, Cadillac Williams is going to put up a lot of points this year. So it was really a huge acquire for us early in the season like this, not realizing he was on the waiver line.
Certainly. Coach, tell me about what your season looks like. Obviously, a lot of big teams out there. You're looking, obviously, to try to make another run at a championship. Tell us about what you got on store for the season.
I tell you what, it's going to be a real tough season this year. You look at this first week, you had 10 out of 14 teams score over 100 points. Now, at least half of those teams broke 120. That shows you what kind of year this is going to be. You come out in week one, put up those kind of points from that many teams, it's going to be an extremely hard league this year, and it's going to be a lot of people looking at the waiver line, looking at pickups, and a lot of key injuries coming in that you really got to watch this year, because if you don't stay on top of it, you're not going to do anything in this league, and that's the only way you're going to win around here.
Coach B.J. Brammell on the phone with us. Coach, one last question. Obviously, a veteran of the league, the rivalries are always kicking up. I'd have to say one of your biggest rivals, Townie Three Putts. You guys have really been kicking it up, but starting all the way back in preseason this year, kind of carrying over from last year. Just kind of tell me what's going on between you two, why the bad blood, and any comments that you have to put out there to Townie Three Putts.
Well, it really started last year. You know, a lot of things went on. We had a lot of close games, a lot of battles. We each ran our mouth at each other. We smack talked, and that's all good and fine. Then coming into the preseason this year, you know, everybody wants to talk about being a no-show, not seeing the defending champ or anything like that. When you're a defending champ, you don't have to be seen. Everybody knows who you are, knows where you're at. And when him to come out and make some of the comments he's made, saying that the team sucks and everything like that, you really got to be on top of that. And our team is fired up, and I was really looking forward to that matchup this year to prove to him it was not a fluke last year, and that every time somebody gets jealous, they can't just go run their mouth. I know that he's envious, but, I mean, he is what it is. I'm the champ, and he's not.
Well, Coach Brammell, thank you for your time, and we wish you the best of luck in the season. And thanks for joining us here on the Commish Corner.
I appreciate it, Commish. Good luck to you this year.
Thank you very much. Once again, B.J. Brammell, head coach of the UK Royals, join us there. Let's go right to our next guy. We've got a rookie coach coming in, the head coach of the Kentucky Patch fan, Jason Coldiron. Coach Coldiron, thanks for joining us. How are you tonight?
I'm doing real well. How are you doing?
Doing fine, thanks. Let's get right to it. Week 1, you was picked as an underdog, got a big win over a team that went real deep in the playoffs last year, the Rebels. Tell us how you pulled it off, Coach.
Well, we had some unfortunate news. Our number 1 overall pick went down with an injury. We weren't sure whether he was going to play or not. It was kind of sketchy, to be honest with you. And it was a last-minute decision. We went and picked up Ben Tate off the waiver wire, and he ended up working out extremely well for us. He showed some flashes of greatness in the preseason, but he wasn't real consistent. But he ended up being our strongest asset in week 1, and we ended up pulling out the victory. And it was really a balanced attack on all fronts. Everyone played well. We all rallied around each other, and we ended up with the win.
Yeah, you speak of picking up Ben Tate there the last minute. I mean, we were really looking at the deadline of cutoff for free agency pickup in week 1, and you jump in there and get the last minute news on Foster. What was your expectations for Tate? Did you expect him to pull off what he did, or was you just trying to fill a void, hoping that you at least picked up a little bit?
Well, I don't think we really expected him to do quite as well, or we were kind of hopeful. But like I said, we watched him in the preseason. He had his good days and his bad days. He didn't get a lot of snaps, but he got enough. And then he showed what he's capable of when you put the ball in his hands. We made a big trade the week before, got rid of one of our other bigger running backs, Peyton Hillis. So we really had no other option than running back. So we were very, very fortunate that Tate was able to provide the necessary points that we needed last week.
I got Coach Coldiron from the Kentucky Patch fan on the phone. Coach, tell us about week 2 coming up. You got a great start, 1-0 out on the season. Got another big game coming up this week. Tell us about it.
We got a real big game coming up week 2, week 1. Being a rookie in the league, maybe some people, maybe we surprised a few people. Week 2, that's not going to happen. So we got a pretty competitive matchup. Sanchez had a great week last week. We got our work cut out for us. We're going to have to watch a lot of game film. Obviously, we're going to have to get a lot of rest. We made some noise on the waiver wires today. I don't think that's going to help us immediately. But further down the line, it may add some trade value. So we're always kind of trying to think ahead, not just as of week 2, but even further on down the season as to how we can approach this thing, top to bottom.
You talk about playing it out, looking down the wire. You're already looking farther down the line. Tell us about your season, what you're planning on doing with the season, what your expectations coming up for it.
Well, I expect us to be competitive, and I expect us to be hungry. We're new to this league, but we don't want to come in and make friends. We want to come in and dominate, and that's our main objective. We want the target on our back. We want to be the hunted, not the hunter. So we're going to try to establish that in the next 2 to 3 weeks, and we'll see what happens. We're trying to build on the week 1 success.
We're joined by Coach Coldiron, the Kentucky Patch fan. Coach, one last question. Even though you've been a rookie in the league, there are some names in this league of coaches that you're familiar with, and I just got to ask you, do you see this becoming a rivalry with any of these teams that's out there, and do you actually have a rival that you've already maybe kicked up already?
I think it's too early to really have a true rival just yet. We're unproven in this league, so nobody's really gunning for us. Hopefully that'll change over the next few weeks. There's some familiar faces in the league, but we've yet to play against them. So we'll kind of have to play it by ear and see how things go. But I think if we can remain competitive, and we'll develop some excellent rivalries in this league, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Okay. Well, Coach Coldiron, we thank you for your time. Best of luck on your season, and thanks for joining us here on the Commish Corner.
Thank you very much.